about the changes we have to make. Now, if somebody can explain to me what he was talking about, he equated, what I didn't understand, he equated the triune with the tree, and all I could think about was, a triangle kind of has the form of a tree. But if anybody has more insight on that, that'd be nice. But going beyond form, the spiritual portion of things, I kept telling people this week, I don't know if I told Alex, I saw him, I said, I know who Jesus is, I found Jesus. Because I have been reading these books about Jesus this year. People in my life kept telling me things about Jesus, how Jesus, accept Jesus, he'll save you. I didn't know what they're really talking about, I just never really understood exactly what they're talking about. But I was sitting around thinking about these books I read, and I was like, I still don't get it. I said, at least I finished some of the books. Some of the books I was reading, I didn't even know what it was really talking about. But I said, I'm just going to read it, I'll take it in, try to absorb it, maybe I'll get it. But I was a little disappointed. But then I said, I understood what, or at least part of it. And I think about the image that we see of Jesus suffering, and I go, I think we're supposed to expect that kind of, expect that in life a bit. That we're supposed to undergo the suffering. And then I saw that he was volunteering for it. He made a choice, which I feel like is a growing of of us becoming individuals, because I think it's part of the process that we have to volunteer for some of the suffering in life. And I think to go through all that, the third thing I got out of the Jesus idea was the idea that to go through this suffering and not just be miserable, you have to have faith, or go into that magical mind, or go into that pause. And that kind of gets you through the suffering with some solace, or at least with a good spirit. That is what I'm going to say. Actually, and then somebody gave me a book about Zen, and they had the Buddha on the front. I said, what a different image than the Christ image of the suffering. You have the Buddha just getting laid back and just saying, the heck with it, let everything go round and round. It's not going to change. Well, Christ is undergoing a suffering, and what seems to me a transformation to the spiritual portion of things.
All right, hang on here. Kaoli, just call back and I'll switch it to video. I've never done this, so. All right, who would like to ask Fernando anything?
He wasn't done.
No, I was done.
Anyone like to ask Fernando anything?
Wait, I missed it. What does finding Jesus mean to you?
What the idea of Jesus, what's all behind that, at least for what I can interpret. Because I kept not understanding what people were talking about when they were saying, like, just accept him. I didn't understand what they're really getting at. And now I was like, at least for me, I go, it's accepting that you're going to suffer, that you choose to suffer, that you to make some difficult decisions. And what was the last piece? That you have kind of faith about what you're going through.
Oh, beautiful.
And go into like a magical mind or pause. You need that aspect to kind of make you feel better about things, or to see you through.
Anyone else want to ask Fernando anything? Anyone? Well, what is faith?
Faith is kind of confidence in things we can't see. Just a feeling, I guess.
Edward X. Young.
What faith were you raised with?
Catholic, I guess. My mom, it was a weak belief system.
All right, Fernando, gracias.
Oh, yes.
All right, clap for Fernando. Kaoli, can you hear us? Wait, hang on a second. You can hear us? Oh, good. I'm a disaster with this stuff. All right. The floor is open. Whoever would like to come up. Shore is the featured speaker, so she'll be up later. All right. Edward X. Young.
Yes. Where's my mark, as they say?
Right there.
All right. Hi, this is Edward X. Young, in from South Jersey. It's good to be back. I think I've missed the past several months, but never got a desire to miss it is because something came up. You know, I work on these movies, I've had some gigs and important stuff has happened, and I knew I was free this evening. I was at a friend's birthday party on the beach in the seaside earlier today, and I left early. I said, I got to make it to Brooklyn tonight. He was like, well, you did another time. I said, no, I have to make it tonight. It's very important. My birthday happens to be 1 week from tomorrow. So this is the last chance you'll have to see me at the tender age of 62, and I'll be really old by next week. But it is good to see you, and it's good to see everybody in a friendly part of New York City, because this city is becoming a lot unfriendlier as time goes by, and the restrictions. I know how you all feel about vaccines and such, and I'm on the same page. I'm very upset because I was supposed to be doing a reunion with David Peel's band in about 2 weeks, but the club, the Parkside Lounge, which I will do everything in my power to boycott this, the other people today, they won't let me perform there unless I can prove that I've been, and I know the club owner, I've got to prove that I've been vaccinated or I can't even enter the place. And the new lead singer of the band, the front man of the band, he's actually Hindu, and he's long said he was never going to get vaccinated because it's against his religion to do so. And also, furthermore, he had COVID and got through it and survived it. And I heard he's going to go play because he said, he was like, I went and got vaccinated. I'm like, what? He goes, look, I'm just tired of being restricted from doing things. I said, so you gave in and you put your health at risk, you violated your own faith. And he said, yeah, I'm just, this whole city is driving me nuts because of a lot of this. I've had a few experiences about this. And my only reason for coming back to this city is to see you wonderful people and go to this hallowed place. I believe this is a holy place that I'm in. I always feel Pasquale's spirit here. I always feel good and revitalized when I leave. And I did want to see my friends for my birthday next week too.
All right, Edward X. Anyone like to ask Edward X. Young anything? Anyone? One more time.
You've groomed.
I grew?
You cut your hair and you
Yes.
Groomed.
Yes, there's a story behind that. I was not going to cut my hair or beard out of protest because of the COVID, but then and I work on the phone. I do phone sales. My boss at work brought me into the office right after I saw you last time and said that he wanted me to cut my hair and shave. And I said, I'm not going to shave the beard and shave. He said, why do you want me to cut my hair? Because I can't stand the way you look. And I said, I work on the phone. What does it matter? It doesn't affect my job. And he said, it matters to me. And I said to him, I said, look, and we usually get along pretty well. I said, look, why are you riding me? I said, I work on the phone and do the job well here. I don't understand. I said, I'm making a statement. And he said, it was kind of funny. He said, you look like Jerry Garcia. And I said, what's wrong with that? He said, I hate the dead. And then he dropped it on me. He goes, I know that you got this job here, and I know that you take time off for these movies you make and conventions you go to and your political activities. I never give you a problem. But maybe I won't be so easygoing if I have to keep on looking at you like this wild man. So I was like, all right, now you got me. All right, okay, I'll cut the hair. He thought I should have trimmed the beard closer. But I copped out, but I wouldn't have had the freedom to do a lot of things. But cutting one's hair is not the same as getting an injection of some experimental drug.
Anyone else want to ask Edward X. Young anything? What is the date of your birthday? What is it?
July 31st, 1 week from tomorrow.
Holy good Lord. All right, anyone else for Edward X. Young? Alex?
With your new and improved look,
Yeah.
according to the Boss Man, do you feel different?
I got to admit, I hadn't cut my hair or beard for over 2 years. And it was sort of becoming like a great achievement. Like, wow, wonder how far I can take this. It's like running a marathon. I was like, what am I going to look like in 4 years? I mean, and my intention always was, if the COVID madness stopped, then I would go back to my old self. And then it's pretty obvious it's never going to stop. I mean, there's so many fascistic political reasons why they're doing this, but there'll be variant after variant, as there will be naturally forever. Even if it gets so mild, we're typically now, the new variant, the one that Biden has, it's no worse than a common cold. The 79-year-old guy's going to be perfectly all right. I mean, but I have to admit, looking at photos now, I'm like, at first I was very depressed for about a month. I was looking at them, I'm like, you know, I really got somewhere, it's gone. And I was getting recognized, you know, and I had a certain look for these horror pictures, but now I look in the mirror, I'm like, I did look kind of crazy. I kind of look like Howard Hughes. You know,
All right,
I think Howard Hughes was a very successful businessman when he was.
Is that a bad thing?
That I looked like Howard Hughes, or that I cut my hair.
No, that you look like Howard Hughes in your mind.
If I wasn't forced to do it, I would have continued letting it go as far as I could. But then again, I think the COVID madness is never going to end in our lifetime. We'll keep on playing this, or not for at least for years. Not for years. There's too many
I didn't have to
advantages.
cut you off.
Yes. Okay. I'm sorry.
Very good. All right, great job. Anyone else? No, Alex.
Like Ed said, I see this as a hallowed place, a very holy, wonderful place to come. Being around you guys is always just, it's almost a gift enough to make the trip end. The thing about metamorphosis, there's so many different ways to look at it. The change you might go through, I mean, there's changes in everything. 2 weeks ago, I went up to Buffalo, New York for a food festival and had the opportunity to try some food from different restaurants. It was quite good. It was nice. I had been in school up there and got to go by the house I used to live in and go to there's a really lovely botanical gardens, and just, there's a lot of really gorgeous buildings up there. And you know, it hit me. The last time I really spent much time driving around and such was over 20 years ago. And it was kind of like young Alex, and then now middle-aged Alex. And it really got me to think so much about how I've changed, how my perception of things have changed, how at one point while I was there, what I thought was most important in life, and now what I would maybe put that as. So, a lot of thoughts flying through, was able to write quite a bit. Had an Airbnb that wasn't quite amazing, but such is life. But it was really nice just to get out of Dodge a little bit to a place that I've been. And the weather, of course, was very uncharacteristic for upstate New York. It was amazing, which almost never happens there. And I can say in many respects I like many of the changes that have occurred. So much of the time people think they need to have a very well thought out linear plan for how life should be, how their experiences, their finances, their career. And for myself, I've really found so much to just be all over the place. But one thing that continues to ring true is in my little studio, my little chiropractic office, I feel like beautiful things happen there all the time. And it's such a blessing, and it's so easy that when it's like almost a daily experience of having that, you forget how amazing that really, really is. And how, to some extent, it's effortless because it's what I truly love, and that's just such an incredible thing to get to experience 6 days a week. And I think about how many people come into the office and they don't really like the relationships they're in, some choices their kids are making, all sorts of things. But I think, I have that one constant that even when the practice isn't maybe as busy as I would like it to be, it's still just a very beautiful place. And I always feel at least a moderate amount of joy, no matter who I'm working on, even if maybe their energy is maybe down a bit. It's just such a blessing to be there and to get to have their trust to do what I do. And yeah, some things have changed. I think most things have, and I'm kind of thrilled that most have been, I think, positive. And that's kind of a nice place to be in life. Who knows what tomorrow or 20 years from now will be, but it's nice at least to stay in the moment. Things are nice.
Anyone want to ask Alex anything? Anyone? Edward X. Young.
You say you're middle-aged, just curious, is it impolite for me to ask how old you actually are now?
It's no secret, it's 46.
Okay, yeah.
He's a young guy.
Oh, but I wouldn't get to be 46 again.
Anyone else want to ask Alex anything?
Is it true what Thomas Wolfe said, that you can't go home again?
I think it depends what you're talking about. Whether it's the physical experience of going there, the emotional, the spiritual. I think so much of the time we want to get back to a different time in life, things we associate, and it's amazing how there are times in the past you weren't thrilled about like most things, but then 20 years later you're like, oh my God, it was amazing here, why did I ever leave? And it's so funny how your memory can kind of push aside things that aren't so important and look what was really important, which was those formative years and finding yourself in so many different ways, being on your own.
Anyone else want to ask Alex anything? One more, last one.
It's not really related to what you said, but I'm just fascinated by your shoes that you have.
Oh, the Vibrams.
What are they, can you explain? I mean,
Yeah, they allow your toes to, in theory, more naturally splay as you walk. You walk more like you would if you weren't wearing shoes, except you have like a thin sole that protects you from maybe like broken glass or pebbles or that sort of thing.
You can wear that out in the street.
Yeah.
Where do you get them? Where can I get them?
They've been a lot of running stores, online, they're everywhere.
And they're called
Vibrams.
Vibrams.
Or if you're, maybe I think the English call them Vibrams.
Okay, I'm going to look into it. I'm
Yeah.
fascinated.
Excellent. All right, clap, clap. I don't know if we'd be able to, I don't know if you want to say anything, Nancy. I'm not sure.
Pete, hey, your son wants to speak. Give him 3 minutes for the noises.
I'll speak. So I was thinking, well, Brian Patrick Gordon, chiropractor, Jersey City, New Jersey, and I was thinking about a video that we sent out to everyone called Metamorphosis. And at the end, the young lady asked him, you speak about an end. What is coming to an end? And he says, not the end of the world, the end of this system. And he says, the immune system is wrong. And he went through, and he spoke about how we were in that risk system all these years. We took things on to get through that risk system. Now we have to get rid of those things because the metamorphosis, we're beyond the form of the system. We don't need it anymore. We're done with it. And the immune system is a system of war. There's war outside because we have war inside of us. And it's called the immune system. It has killer cells and this and that. And it kills. Pasquale says we're at the point where we don't need that anymore. Having the immune system is wrong. You scream that at the end. And that's all everyone's talking about. Boost your immune system. I don't want to boost it. I want to be done with it. And I am done with it. I decided inside of myself, I'm done. There's no more. The war inside of me has left. So how are you going to stay healthy? You just, for me, chiropractic, be happy. I have a wonderful wife and a beautiful little boy over here, and just dedicate myself to them and to the people that I serve. And whatever it is I need, I truly believe God will give me. Because when you serve people with your pure intentions of the Holy Spirit, God provides all your needs. And that's really what this system, the real system is. As Nancy said, our true nature is the Holy Spirit. And that's what I'm living with, and that's what's coming through me. So yes, I'm done with all this talk about the immune system and all that. I'm finished with it. I'll let people talk about it, but I won't enter into it. It's about now Holy Spirit living. Now it's time to do it. So this system, inside of me, it's done. And I believe that's why chiropractic came here. D.D. Palmer knew all those years ago. I believe he knew that all those years ago. But he was so far ahead of his time he had to go because we weren't ready for that yet. So once again, I'm here for the Holy Spirit system. Alright, would anyone like to ask me anything? Anyone? Alex?
Is it possible, instead of seeing the immune system as like the killing system, just as it helps to keep us at balance?
No.
Oh, okay.
It's done. It's a part of a system and a part of a mindset we don't need anymore. I'm not saying it's good or it's bad. It's just not necessary. It will not help us in this new Holy Spirit system. It's not needed anymore. It was needed, now it's not.
You're not talking about external people trying to give you vaccines. You're talking about our immune system.
Yeah, inside of me.
ourselves. It's
Inside of me.
no longer necessary.
Yes.
It's interesting. I've kind of been feeling that same
It's
thing.
about light.
Interesting to hear you say that.
And it's about living it. Anyone else want to ask me anything? Alex?
You know, I remember we talked about this several years ago. It's almost like with that even, you have to buy into that system and you're just not choosing to be in there anymore.
I'm done.
And that you've left the building.
Yeah, inside of me, if I expect anything on the outside to change, it has to change inside of me first. And that's where I'm at with this. I'm not asking anyone else to do it. I'm not demanding anyone does anything. I'm just saying what's going on with me. And that's chiropractic. And chiropractic, I believe, helps people feel safe to do that. It gives them the enlightenment. All right, well, that was 3 for me, so I'm done.
I was going to ask, oh,
I got to be strict. I can't allow myself
I
extra.
understand.
Nancy, let me hear you say something. I can hear you.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes, would you like to say, can you guys hear her?
Yeah.
Really well.
Go ahead, Nancy, we can all hear you.
Oh my goodness, I just want to say hello to everybody. I wish I was there. Can you guys hear me?
Very
Yes,
loud.
yes.
Wow. Hi.
Hi. We can hear you loud and
I know
clear.
I look very little. I just want to say a big congratulations to everyone for going past to the understanding that we are bigger than this physical universe and that we are made out of spirit. We are made out of God's substance. And so if we experience our bodies that way, we're really, really getting closer to where God wants us to be. And, I wanted just to say to Fernando, sometimes that we don't understand, like, what we think is suffering from above may not be suffering. What we think is anything may have a higher reason and a higher purpose from a place of God and the infinite, that with our little systems that we are just growing into a metamorphosis, that we're beginning to get answers and an understanding. So I'm in it with everybody, and I just want to say hi, send everybody love, and that's it.
Does anyone want to ask Nancy anything? Anyone? Alex?
Have you been I think you had mentioned before you found a chiropractor that you kind of like down there.
Yeah, thank God.
How has that been going?
It's fabulous. The healing that I've gone through in the past 2 years is remarkable. I'm walking again. Now, I'm not 100%, but I'm grateful for the purification that I've gone through. And I know it was needed and necessary. And coming to the other end of the situation is great. But I love my chiropractor here now. She's wonderful. I hope you'll all get to meet her one day.
Anyone else want to ask Nancy anything? Anyone? One more time, anyone? All right, let's clap for Nancy. Thank you, Nancy. Now I'd like to know if my friend Kaoli from Japan, could you say something so we can hear you? Hang on a second, Kaoli. Come on,
Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you now.
Okay. So we have the self-center meeting in Japan as well. We have few people in the Japanese meeting.
Yes.
So we try to bring more people we don't gather each other so often. I think this is like Japanese style. We don't gather always.
Yeah.
We gather sometimes, but not like you guys. So we try to correct and we try to speak about this meeting to share our feeling or about chiropractic or spirit or art or science or
Yeah.
philosophy, but still few people in Japanese meeting. So if you have some clue or a hint for me, please tell me.
Okay. Does anyone like to ask Kaoli Watanabe, who's in Japan right now, anything?
Thank you.
Will she ever visit America?
Will you ever come to America?
Yes, few times.
All right, well, make sure you tell us so we'll pick you up at the airport. Okay, anyone else like to ask Kaoli anything? Kaoli, as far as the meetings, just keep having them, and whoever shows up, shows up. And just do the best you
Thank
can.
you.
And that's all you can do. And is it still the last Thursday? In Japan, it's the last Thursday of every month? You still doing it that way?
Yes, we have, yes.
I'll find out. I'll get hold of Sachio and I'll find out and I'll tell people because I used to attend the meetings. I'll have to do it again. All right. Anyone else like to ask Kaoli anything? All right then, Kaoli. Thank you very much. We're gonna clap for you. Oh yeah. I'm gonna hold Jackie, who has no shirt on, and Josh Siegel. I don't know, well, Ed, you met him before in the past. If you
Yeah.
saw him, you'd know who he is.
I think I remember.
And Fernando, he's a great guy. He's a chiropractor out on Long Island. He knew Pasquale very well. He's going through a hard time right now. He needs a kidney transplant. And he needs some help financially. So we'll have to get you his information. I know Sora can tell you about that afterwards as far as how to get a hold of him. And, it'd be nice to, if you can, send him a few dollars to help him out in this rough time. He's a really nice guy. I'm going to call him up tomorrow to find out exactly how to do all these things. And so that's it. He's a great guy. So remember, Josh Siegel, S-I-E-G-E-L. So we're going to call up now. We're going to bring up the featured speaker, and her name is Sura.
Hi, I'm Sura Corrigan. My name is official now with the Corrigan, according to the Social Security Office, from Jersey City, New Jersey. And tonight's topic is, how will you face the change called death? And as many of you may know or you may not know, is Brian's father recently passed away. And I had the great honor not only to know him, but to be around him in his final days, in his final hours. And he had a beautiful death. I don't really know, but to me it was the most beautiful death I could really even imagine. I was really blown away by it. And that's what really came to the question is, how do you want to die? How will you face death? And also, what will your willingness be to die? And death has intrigued me. A little background, since I was a child, my father, how I was raised was without religion. My parents are Iraqi, and they're part of the new breed of Iraqis that wanted to be away from the women being cloaked and very religious, so they really only believed in science. And I distinctly remember my father telling me, when you're dead, you're in the ground and that's it. So my father passed away when I was 11, and he appeared in my dreams every single night. And I was totally freaked out by it because, one, I thought my thoughts had killed him because I was a child, and children often think the world revolves around you, so I thought it was my fault that he was dead. And it scared me. Then finally, after 2 weeks maybe of him in my dream every night, I said, you know what, I'm not going to be scared anymore. If I can't see him when I'm awake, at least I can see him when I'm sleeping. And that night, he hugged me in the dream. And it was a very visceral experience. And I also knew he was saying goodbye. And I also knew I wouldn't dream of him anymore. And that's exactly what happened. So after that happened, I was like, you know what? I'm not believing my dad's theory of when you die, it's over. And I became very curious. I really, really, really wanted to know what happens after you die. And a friend of the family gave me these books on angels. And they had all these stories of real angels appearing to people. And one of the stories said, sometimes people that die will come to you in your dreams and say goodbye. So that was the proof I was looking for. And if you asked me then when I was 11 or 12 or 13, I would have said my religion is angels, because that was like the proof I got, you know. And then I was very interested in stories of people that died and came back, because I was looking for clues that my father was still okay. And some people would say they saw a light, and it felt very good, and they wanted to stay, and they didn't want to come back, but a voice said, you have to come back. Some people talked about being greeted by their ancestors, by even their pets. Some people talked about meeting angels, Jesus. Some talked about having a committee that reviews your life. And so I was just gathering all these, I don't know what's true, I'm just gathering information. And then I don't know if you guys ever saw this movie, Defending Your Life. It was one of my favorite movies. It's with Meryl Streep and Albert Brooks. And in this movie, what happens is when you die, you go to Judgment City. And basically you get a lawyer and you're on trial for all the moments in your life you were fearful or brave. And the more afraid you were in your life, the more days at court you have. And if your lawyer wins the case, you move on to the next round. And if you lose the case and you are shown to be guilty of being afraid, you get sent back to Earth. So I thought this movie is so funny, but I loved it because I felt like it was talking about what happens after you die. To me, nobody was talking about it, and I was so curious. So fast forward to now I'm in college, and I'm watching CNN, and they are doing a special on mediumship. And I wanted to know if it was real. The story on it said, they said they're fakes, they're not true, and then other people said, no, it's real, it's true. So I just said, I want to meet a medium, I'll know if it's real, I really want to know if you can talk to the dead. So at that time, that show, John Edward Crossing Over, was out, and it was gaining a lot of popularity. And you could call that show one day a month to try to get tickets. So I would mark it in my book, and I would call every month, and I wouldn't get through. Finally, my sister, who's an attorney, totally not like me into all this death stuff and medium stuff, she said, you know what, I think I found you a medium. One of the attorneys at the firm went, and he said she's the real deal. So me and my sister, we went to this woman in Long Island, to her house, and as soon as we sat down, we had an hour and a half messages from my father. So at that point, without a shadow of a doubt, there was no doubt for me at that point that you don't die. That evening we were home, and we were excited to tell my other sister about the reading and all the messages that came through. And the front door opened and closed, so we thought it was my other sister, and we're calling her into the room. And suddenly this huge ball of energy enters the room. And I screamed and jumped. And my sister, the lawyer, goes, don't worry, it's our father. She was totally normal. And it was like a very, I don't know how Brian says it, like Pasquale zapped you. I got zapped. And immediately I was like, you know what? The purpose of life isn't just to get married and have kids. Like, if you don't die, you must be here for a reason. And suddenly my whole focus went from not being curious about death to being curious about life and why we're here. And soon that led me to a spiritualist church, and there someone recommended chiropractic, and there I found chiropractic, and so on and so forth. But when what was really still watching Brian's father pass away was the question of how will I be able to face death? You know, sometimes when I'm leaving the house, I get anxious, like, do I have my wallet? Do I have my keys? And I was really thinking of that moment where you have to let go and just go. You're going with nothing. You're not going with your clothes or your money or anything or your keys. You don't know what's ahead of you. You know, Brian's father was he had a strong faith in God, but you know, it's still a mystery. And I remember someone said, so what happened one of the things that happened with Brian's father is, okay, the second to last day before he died, it was a hard day. He was like, I need to go to work, I need to go to work. He was kind of losing it, you know, and he looked really uncomfortable, and we were, you know, the family was all around. He was in hospice, but he had his hospital bed in the dining room, and the whole family was gathered. It's a big family in and out of and they were in the kitchen, and the kitchen is right next to the dining room, so we were all around him. And that was a hard day because he was uncomfortable, and I just remember thinking, you have to just go through it. Like, he always led by example, and he was showing you have to go through it. Like, he was going through the hard part, and there was no, like, you couldn't get your ticket out of this part. The next day, they had given him medication. It was only supposed to last a few hours, but suddenly he was very peaceful. And a few people had the conversation, like, why is he still hanging on? Like, why can't he just go? And we're like, well, maybe he wants to say goodbye to his sister. So the last day, you know, Brian drove her, and she came, and she's a nun in Jersey City. And I had asked Brian, I was like, Brian, what does holding vigil mean for someone? Is that what we're doing as a family? And he's like, no. And then when the sister Mary came, she sat by her brother and prayed. And Brian was like, that's what holding vigil is. And after a few hours, she came and she said, I'm done. She goes, I'm done, let's go. And she goes, I told him, just go, just go. And a few hours later, he was sleeping. Nobody was around him, but there was people close to him, and he passed away peacefully in his sleep. And I remember someone saying, what's the difference between surrender and giving up? And they said, imagine you're swimming and you're having a hard time, and surrender is when you lay on your back and you float and you let the water hold you, and giving up is when you drown. And I don't know, that's what it felt like the last day around Brian's father, as he had surrendered. And Ram Dass said, so a few things from Ram Dass. He talked about death. One thing he said about death, and I believe he channeled this, the answer wasn't from him. They were saying someone was afraid to die, and he goes, what should I tell them? And I believe it's an angel spoke through him and said, tell them death is perfectly safe, and it's like taking off a tight shoe. And I love that, because it feels like the person is free, that being in the body is some form of constriction, even though it's useful for the work that we came here to do. But I love that. Another thing Ram Dass said was that he thought it was very strange that someone would be dying, and then the people, he would notice the doctors, the nurses, the people around the person would say, "You look great, you're looking great, you're doing great," and then walk out the room and be like, he only has a few hours. And he was like, why can't people be in truth with that person? Like, why can't they just really be with them? Like, they're going through this huge transition. Why can't they sit in truth with them? And one of the authors I like, her name is Saren Bertrand. She talks about bandwidth. What's your bandwidth? Like, what's your bandwidth for how much joy you can hold? What's your bandwidth? She says, like, some people are really good at attracting money, but they don't have the bandwidth to hold it. And I was thinking about that moment when Brian's father was passing away, and also what I would want for myself is, what's your bandwidth to be in the presence of someone making the transition from life to death, whether it's for yourself or for someone else. And let's see what else. And so these words, actually, I felt like to write them, but I feel like one of my guides gave me these words. I have often remarked that when one is near death, there is an aura of mystery surrounding them that only one going through it can know and feel deeply. If I were to ask you the one thing you wish for your death, what would it be? How do you want to feel? Who is with you? And can you find peace in letting this life go? I ask this for the sole purpose of helping you realize that the time here is precious and to be used for good, healing, and love. So there's also this book that's of this person that she interviewed a lot of people dying and asked if they had any regrets. The top 5 regrets of people dying. 1, I wish I had the courage to live a life true to myself, not the life others expected of me. 2, I wish I hadn't worked so hard. 3, I wish I had the courage to express my feelings. 4, I wish I had stayed in touch with my friends. 5, I wish I had let myself be happier. So then the next thing that the next idea that came to me was like, how will I feel at my death? Is there anything burning inside of me that I want to do? Is there a place I want to travel? Is there something I want to accomplish? Is there someone I need to make amends with? Is there a real forgiveness talk I need to do with somebody or myself? Or is there something I want to do? You know, we really don't know when the banshee will come crying. So I just learned about the banshee. In Irish tradition, they say the banshee is a fairy, and when the banshee wails, it's a warning that a death is coming. So a few weeks before Brian's dad passed, Brian said, "I know the banshee's screaming, I know it." And I picked up a random book in the house maybe a week before he died, a book I never read, and I just opened up to the page, and it talked all about the banshee crying when someone's about to die. So I knew that Brian's dad was going to pass away. But one of the messages that did come is, if there's something whispering inside of you, or if there's something burning inside of you, do it now. That's just the message I got. Do it now. And of course there's divine timing, but at least you can, I was thinking, if there's somewhere I really want to go, I can plan it for 2 years from now at least. But get on with living life. And there's Seth, it was these channeled texts by Seth. And one of the things he said about death is that every death, no matter how it happens, is the crowning achievement in that person's life. And I looked up what achievement means, and it meant to do something successfully with skill, effort, or courage. Which brought me back to that moment where you have to really go, let go, and surrender. And let's see, I just want to see if there's anything else I want to say. I think I'll just finish with a little bit, I just want to touch a little bit more about Brian's father. He was a man, like I said, that led by example. He was a very devoted husband, a devoted father to 6 children. He had 12 grandchildren. And one of the things he instilled in Brian and the others is when you help someone, just go out of your way and help people, but don't tell anyone. Don't do it for the pat on the back or the recognition. Just help people and kind of keep it a secret, you know. But he talked about service, and he wasn't the type, at least while I knew him, to ever lecture people or tell them what to do. He really led by example. I really mean that. Every birthday, you would get a card from him with money, and then however you turned, like I turned 42, there would be 42 cents taped to the card. When you turn 43, there'll be 43 cents. I met him September 3 years ago. Christmas, everyone gets a Christmas card with money. I got a Christmas card the first year, and Brian was like, you got a card, you're in. And it's one of the things you can count on. Every birthday, every Christmas, even when he was in and out of hospital, somehow I would get the card mailed to me with the coins taped. He would find a way. And there's something to be said of being a really consistent, steady, stable force of love in the people's lives. He also loved baseball, and he loved, he worked really hard, but he had fun. He loved his baseball. And he was an amazing man. He was a man of faith. He did a lot of charity work. He was the coach for the kids and the baseball. I'm very, very, very honored that I got to know him. I'm very grateful. Every time Jack laughs hysterically, I say to him in heaven, I say, because you lived, my son is laughing like this. And he just brings us so much joy. And we named Jack after him. And I'm so grateful he was alive long enough to meet Jack, and that's it. So this is his mass card. I'd like to read the prayer and end with that. Lord, make me an instrument of thy peace. Where there is hatred, let me sow love. Where there is injury, pardon. Where there is doubt, faith. Where there is despair, hope. Where there is darkness, light. Where there is sadness, joy. O Divine Master, grant that I may not so much seek to be consoled as to console, to be understood as to understand, to be loved as to love. For it is in giving that we receive, and it is in pardoning that we are pardoned, and it is in dying that we are born to eternal life. Amen.
Does anyone want to ask Sarah anything? Anyone?
When specifically did your father-in-law die? What date?
July 5th.
Just happened.
Around 4:20 a.m.
And
Want to be exact.
how old was he?
89. Anyone want to ask Sarah anything?
So you said you were reflecting and asking yourself, is there anything I should be doing now? I'm guessing, you gotta be playful. I'm guessing you're doing what you need to be doing. I mean, was there anything else that surprised you? Like also, you're like, I gotta go to Peru and walk up Machu Picchu. No? Was there anything like that?
Well, there's definitely, I was like, we need to start putting some trips in the books. Because I do really, really, really want to travel. And if I died now, I would feel that I didn't complete my purpose, even though it's still revealing itself to me. I wouldn't feel complete. I feel like there's still things I want to do, but I'm still waiting for the instructions. So I feel it would be premature, but it's like I'm waiting for my assignment, kind of. So I think the biggest one was travel, because one of the regrets was you work too hard, and I'm like, and Jackie Corrigan, one of the things, he was a hard worker, but his baseball was his fun. So I was thinking, what are ways you can honor Jackie Corrigan? Have some fun, help someone with know you help them. You know, send someone a birthday card. Be devoted with the birthdays. I don't know. I'm going on a tangent now.
Anyone else want to ask Sarah anything? Edward X.
How do you overcome fear of death?
Well, this is one of the things I thought of, is that we actually die many times in our life. Like, we're constantly being reborn and going through these metamorphoses, right? So I thought the better I am each time I go through it, the more I surrender each time, the more I trust, the stronger that muscle can get. And when the time comes for death, maybe by that point I could say, wow, I had a lot of practice because I went through 20 rebirths. I know I'm better at it today than I was 5 years ago, but I still have work to do with surrender, letting go, trusting. And it's hard to know until you really face it, too.
Anyone else want to ask Sarah anything? Anyone?
Yeah, I do.
Go ahead, Nancy.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, great. Thank you so much. That was a really rich and beautiful talk. Thank you
Thank
so
you,
much.
Nancy.
My question is, as a chiropractor, how does it feel to you in adjusting people who we know are in a dying process? So we have to deal with ourselves, but we also have to deal with the space of the people that we serve.
Yeah. Well, the second to last day when we saw Brian, when we were driving there, Brian said, he looks like death, prepare yourself. And I really didn't know what that meant until, I arrived. And Brian said, I have been called to so many people's house like this in this moment. And to tell you the truth, I've never been called in that moment when somebody's dying to adjust them. And I did see Brian adjust him that day, and it was so beautiful to see. One of the things that I thought of is I had paid so much attention to how a baby is born, because they say that puts an imprint on the baby for their life. But also what about when you die, how you die, and that imprint it does on your soul. And that's about adjusting people. I think, you could be preparing, you could be helping them let go. When it takes someone a while to die, maybe they're working through something and you don't know what it is, but adjusting them perhaps helps them. And like the Mass card said, is we're eternal. So I think as a chiropractor, it would be an honor to adjust someone like that, but there's a reverence, like you're not trying to save them. You're just there to serve, and you really don't know you don't know if the adjustment's there to help them die or what, or when it's going to help them or how it's going to help them. But I do believe it does help, and it's something to approach with a lot of reverence.
Anyone else want to ask Sarah anything? Anyone? One more time. Anyone? All right, Sarah. Thank you very much.
Okay, great. Thanks.
Excellent. Good job. Great job. And the camera stayed on the whole